of what was happening.
Do you know the relationship of President and Paul O'Sullivan?
No, I don't know how related they are. I just don't know that Mr. Paul O'Sullivan speaks a lot about being in contact with many people, including the president. So I have not gone deeper into establishing the type of relationship they have.
Does he have do you know of any relationship between him and one of the president's advisors?
Mr. Paul O'Sullivan? No, not that I know of. I know that there is a lot of talks about engagement, I think, with Mr. Chauke and amongst others. But again, it's something that it's communicated out there, but I never really got deeper to investigate the type of relationship that is there.
Through our own intelligence, were you able to establish that Paul O'Sullivan is a member or a former member of M16?
Well, I have not necessarily got the briefing in details from intelligence in that regard. I've heard the talks about it. I don't have the full briefing. What is of interesting is that he's got citizenship in 3 countries, and that makes me wonder. And he seems to have been a person who got angry when he was disturbed by being removed from the port of entry in South Africa, the main port of entry at the time, which was Johannesburg International Airport. When he was removed, he did not take that kindly. So it will make me conclude that there were some things that were happening in that airport that made him angry.
So we'll be correct to say Mr. Paul O'Sullivan is one of the rogue elements that are destabilizing SAPS and wanting to capture every senior police officer at SAPS, and if you don't cooperate, he start engaging in blackmailing activities.
With no doubt, I'm going to invite the parliament through the structures of intelligence or structures of security and whoever structures you can come up with, to look at the time of Mr. Robert McBride Turner as the head of IPD. How they were interacting with Paul O'Sullivan. Bank movements, money movements, the meeting venues, the cell phone locations where they meet, how they engage in terms of investigation. I'm saying this to the members because it is that which Mr. Nkabinde told me, who is now a chief of staff at the office of the minister, that operations of IPD were planned, coordinated, and executed at Paul O'Sullivan's house. That was his words to me. So I'm going to require that such be investigated in details, because the phone will put McBride in this place, will put Paul O'Sullivan in this place, will put Nkabinde in this place, and others. And when that investigation is conducted, nobody can deny it, because we'll know exactly that all of them have been operating guided by Paul O'Sullivan. And that is on one side. And I'm interested to know, honorable members, as to who is the author of the report that was produced when the city of Johannesburg, as well as the National Commissioner, wrote to the State Security asking them about the legality or otherwise of the gadgets that were bought by the city of Johannesburg at the time when Julius Malema was in charge of the security in that place. And who is the company that supplied that gadget? And how was that gadget sourced from the country in Europe where it comes from, in the UK? And I want to also recommend an investigation against the purchase of the similar gadget that was bought by DPCI back in 2010, where Julius Malema was working at DPCI at the time. Whether such was bought legally, who are the supplier, and who's the manufacturer of the things. And I'll want the parliament to check every financial records of Mr. Paul O'Sullivan and all the individuals I've mentioned, and so that we're able to trace and draw a conclusion whether is Paul O'Sullivan a clean man or is an agent. So I think based on that investigation, we're able to conclude whether is he indeed a clean man or he is what is being said in public, an agent. If he's a clean man, why he does what he does. If he's an agent, who is he working for? But it is time that this country must not sit back and be run by Mr. Paul O'Sullivan. And if government fails to act on it, the men and women in this country, they're going to take it upon themselves to do something drastic on it. And it might not be what this government wants to do, because he has gone too deep in showing that he's got control all over. And maybe lastly, I might ask the members to say, if you ever heard of any report that is deemed to be classified, they're supposed to expose the wrong that has happened, such reports be interrogated. And one of them, IPID has a responsibility to investigate criminal things. When you hear the Minister of Police says, I've got a report from IPID that is classified, then you need to ask yourself a question. You are not an intelligence structure. What do you do with a classified report that you don't want to release? As IPID, what is that report doing in the Minister first place? Because IPID deals with the criminal case docket. Whatever you investigate must get into the case docket, and that docket must go to court. Why will it go to the minister and the minister goes out public and say, I've classified this report, I won't make it public? So these are the things that need to be checked, because it is when the system of government fails. And you have worked hard to create a legislation to try and protect yourselves, the citizen of the republic. But if it's manipulated in that fashion, that the minister can just decide, I'm classifying this, I'm not releasing it in public, perhaps you need to ask, do your minister that classifies a document, do you have a security clearance yourself? So how do you classify something if you yourself are not vetted? You don't have a security clearance. So what gives you basis to classify something? So those are the typical examples that I'm talking about that might need to be checked. The problem in the law enforcement is so serious in this country that's why I'm saying, if these things are going to be centralized in a national commission, then it might not be fixed. There's too many problems that exist. And if we start looking at how can we decentralize some of the things, we lessen the risk against this country. And it's a serious risk, honorable members. So that's why I'm going to end on that response.
Well, General, I don't understand why would a bully like Paul O'Sullivan, who is a person of interest because he's suspected to have brought some certain gadgets in the country, is now involved in the destabilization of the security cluster, is so deeply involved. Why is the National Commissioner, or including yourself, not opening a case on crimes against the state? Because when you are engaged in the destabilization of the security cluster, you are a national security threat. And therefore, a case should be registered against you, and he must be investigated and be arrested, because he has been going on for a very long time. He has become untouchable, he has become a bully, and it looks like everybody is so helpless around him. What makes it like that? Why are we not opening a case at that level as police, if we have this kind of information, to verify the authenticity of the things we hear, so we legitimately investigate him, especially on crimes against the state?
Yeah, well, I think majority of the things that are happening that Paul O'Sullivan is doing at the head office, and the authorized people that are closer, that are affected, that should be assisting us in such investigation, that should be acting on it. Myself, I have not necessarily pursued anything because I never really had much details of what. I will hear him talk about things. What triggered me, first time that drew my attention to him, when he published through the media, he published the photos of Gerald Patlane, who was the acting national commissioner. When he published the photos of Gerald Patlane's house when it was still under construction. And then I started asking myself a question, this house was finished about a year ago. How did he get hold of these photos? That was very interesting to me, that it's not like we're investigating now and you go to the place, there's construction, you take photos. But he shows a building, a structure that was under construction a year or two ago. And he started with a complaint later and he says, this man was building a house of this amount and this is how he was paying for the house and so forth. if the Paul O'Sullivan is going to come and say the National Commissioner, and I said to the National Commissioner, we need to open a case against this. If Paul O'Sullivan is going to say the National Commissioner owns a property here and here and here and here and here, how does he afford all these properties? How did he get the information? So we always say that you get, I'm sure majority of citizens in South Africa experience that. You get a phone call from a company and they want to sell you something. And you ask them, where do you get my number from? They say, no, we got it from marketing, whatever things. The reality is our communication, our contact details, our personal information gets to be shared with third parties without our authorities. That's a reality. And nothing much happens on it. We see it with the marketing happening on our phones, and then we see with people that act to be activists like Paul O'Sullivan that are going to start publishing things that you wonder, how did he get hold of these things? And if those things exist, why didn't you open a case and get them registered? But he doesn't talk about the case. And what disturbed me the most, which I said to the National Commission, I don't understand how you keep quiet about this. When the National Commission was appointed, Paul O'Sullivan came out public and he said he was given the names of people to profile. He himself said that the presidency gave him names of particular number of people to profile whether they are suitable or not. And he made the recommendation who is suitable or who's not suitable. And some of us didn't know that. When a national commissioner is appointed, it means his profile went via Paul O'Sullivan to profile. So if that is true, it therefore means the president had invited him to come and give advice at the presidency. And that becomes a serious risk for us. So, but I said to the National Commission, it affects you. If it was me, I was going to open a case. But I don't think this thing should be allowed because this man is saying he is now making a decision as to who becomes the National Commission of the police.